It's
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
It's the preview show. It's the No Nay Never podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the first of three very special festive editions of the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. I am your host Natalie Bromley, but joining me is the main man himself, the headliner of the preview show, Dave Roberts, Statman Dave. Hello, hello.
Hello, Natalie. Are you well?
I'm all right, thank you. I suppose we'd better fess up to our listeners, hadn't we, really, that we're about to record all three Christmas editions back to back. So we might have to manipulate some some comments and say, so what about that there result then on Boxing Day, Dave?
Yeah, we might not be able to mention anything like that, but we'll muddle through. We'll get it.
We'll muddle through. Obviously, listeners, it's a very busy time of the year, and not just fixtures that are coming thick and fast, but our lives are coming at us thick and fast, and we haven't quite got the time to fit in. And obviously, with Boxing Day and then Saturday as well, it's a big ask to ask people to record stuff when they've got families and holiday commitments. So we're sure you will understand. I tell you what, we haven't done yet, Dave. We haven't actually told Matt that we're recording these three, and
That'd be useful.
poor producer Matt's going to get 3 preview shows landed in his inbox. Well, we know what we're here for. First up, we are going to look at Everton, which is the away game Thursday, 26th of December, which is, of course, Boxing Day, 3 p.m. kickoff. But we are going to look at that first, and then we're going to then record Man United at home, which I believe is Saturday, and then we're going to record Villa away, which is, I think, New Year's Day? No, Villa home, sorry, isn't it? We're at home.
Villa at home, New Year's Day.
Two away and then 2 home games back to back.
Yeah.
So grand. Now, before we get going, we're looking at the Boxing Day fixture. Dave, what a fantastic early Christmas present yesterday was. We're recording this on Sunday, so Saturday we were, of course, away at Dean Court at Bournemouth with an absolute smash and grab 1-0 win. I'm pretty happy with that. Santa well came early, didn't he?
I'm not sure about the smash and grab. Neither side. Smash and grab suggests that we didn't deserve it, but I think we took the one chance in the game. There were many chances going, but we left it very late. Got the goal, and we're very more than happy with the 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess where I was coming from was more if either side had have scored after that absolutely dismal display, then I think it would have been a smash and grab on either side, really. But yeah, you're right. It was a pretty poor performance on both sides. And from a stats perspective, I understand it's the lowest number of
shots.
Is that since Premier League started?
No. I think the Opta stats have only started since 2003, so we don't know what happened prior to that. There might have been some games prior to that, but certainly since 2003, the previous low was 9. There were a couple of games with 9 shots in total. That's not just on target, just any type of shots was 9, and there were 5 in Saturday's game.
And only 1 on target.
We set a new low that might take some beating.
Yeah, I imagine it would do. But to be fair, we were only 50% contributors to that. It's like we actually did manage a shot on goal. Bournemouth didn't do anything, and I do find it hilarious that the usual bitter fans have come out all over social media after that game. I think it's just kind of become fashionable to hate being beaten by Burnley. I'm not being funny, but that Everton Arsenal game on Saturday was even worse than ours. So don't be coming at me with your God, I'd hate to watch Burnley every week when there's other teams that are dishing out very much survival tactics at the moment.
Yeah, we weren't last on Match of the Day.
It's hilarious. They're like,
whether we would have been if it had been 0-0 is debatable. But
I think there was quite a few talking points in our game, wasn't there? There was a little bit of feistiness going all over the place. There was, I think, 3 red card shouts, was there a handball, and a possible penalty as well. Oh no, was there a penalty? Well, either way, there was lots of talking points, but I think for me, Bournemouth fans are going on and on and on about how we should have had two players sent off. I think the referee got both of our decisions right, and I can't believe that Bournemouth ended up staying with 11 men, Dave.
Well, yeah, considering that one went to VAR and they didn't give it, that was unfathomable, really. He's definitely hit out with his arm. It's a deliberate action. he's cut Ashley Barnes in the face, and quite why that's not a red card, I've no idea.
No, I agree. Especially as we're recording this after watching Chelsea Spurs this afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and Son obviously got sent off for what was quite frankly pretty much identical lashing out. So
Well,
who knows?
yeah, that was his foot, wasn't it? But it's again petulant, and
was it?
if one's a red card, the other one is.
I thought so. Somebody lashed out with their elbow. I'm getting my two incidents mixed up. I could have sworn that there was an elbow, but quite right, yes.
I didn't watch the game. I saw it on social media, and there was he was kind of on the floor on his back and kind of kicked up. And I think that, well, as far as I'm aware, that was what the card was given for.
Fine. I was watching the game as well, so God knows how I've got those incidents mixed up. But never mind. I'm not that interested in Chelsea Spurs to pay that much attention, to be honest. No. I just remember what the handball incident was. Of course, it was a suggestion that Jay's goal got sent to VAR because of a possible handball, but
it was handball off the defender,
wasn't Jay. So yeah. Excellent. But yeah, no, a good 3 points. It takes us on to we may as well talk about this because we're not going to know any stats between now and the end of these festive recordings, but that puts us on 21 points.
24 points. We're 24. That's double what we had at this stage of last season, which is we had 12 after 18, and then we also lost against Everton in the 19th game as well. So we're well ahead of where we were this time last season.
And significantly, we're 9 points clear now of the drop zone. So it's going to have to take some massive swing in the opposite direction for us to get pulled. To actually go down. We may end up flirting again with a relegation battle between now and the end of the season, but we certainly are doing well. So let's get on with the show, shall we, young Dave? Now,
well, one thing first before we go into Everton, isn't there?
Yes. Dave, I was about to introduce our listeners to the quiz. Dave doesn't trust me today, listeners, because I might have had a few wines before we started the show. So I think he thinks that I'm just going to go a bit maverick and just do things in whatever order I want. But no.
It wouldn't be the first time you've missed the quiz question,
This is very
would
true.
It?
But that is true. But I learned my lesson the last time. I won't miss it again. I have a big red flag now telling me to do quiz question. Yes, Mr. Roberts. At the end of our Bournemouth preview show, you left our lovely listeners a quiz question, which was one of Burnley's 9 away wins in the 1999-2000 promotion season was at Bournemouth, and that was in February 2000. The Clarets won 1-0, but which player scored the goal? Over to you, Davido.
The answer was the Padiham Predator, Andy Payton. I thought I might have caught a few people out with it being February 2000, Ian Wright signing. I thought a few people might have got mixed up and gone for Ian Wright, but it was just before that, I think.
Clearly they didn't, because we had some correct answers, didn't we, Dave?
We did, and first off the mark this time around was Peter Jones. He knew it was Andy Payton on the score sheet at Dean Court. John Robertson was also in touch with the correct reply, as was Rob Thomas. And there did seem to be quite a lot of healthy competition surrounding our weekly quiz question and generated quite a bit of discussion and banter on Twitter.
Oh, so what are we going to do anything about that, do we think, Dave?
Well, we did. Well, Matt and I were responding to the replies coming through, and we did mention we might try and do a special one-off quiz episode later in the season, either maybe an international break, or it might be something we look at the end of the season. So if anyone's got any ideas on what to do for that, then we may well get something together for later on in the season. That might be a little bit different.
That's excellent. And as if you and me didn't have enough to do, Dave, we'll do a quiz as well. Yay! Merry Christmas, everyone. So what are we going to do about the quiz going forward then? Obviously, we're recording our preview shows now, Dave. Why don't you let our listeners know what we can expect?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit tricky, but we will still do the quiz questions. I know the listeners do like the quiz questions. So we're going to record the next couple of preview podcasts in advance. We won't be able to name check the listeners who get the question right, but don't think that doesn't mean we won't be looking at the replies that come through. We will be looking at those and seeing who gets in touch first, because as I say, it does seem to be a little bit of competition out there as to who responds with the answer first.
Exactly. Well, I think what we might do is just collate all of the correct answers and do a bit of a summary in the new year, and see if we can try and encourage any more listeners. We seem to get the same answers every single week, which is great because we can set these people homework and they can react to what we're telling them, i.e. hit first over the line this week, which went down very well. But yeah, let's give people a name check in the new year and see if we can try and get some new quiz answers as well.
Opposition stats.
So now on to the main reason why we are here this evening. And we are, of course, looking at the Boxing Day fixture at Goodison Park away at Everton. Dave, what we are now in a situation where we've done half the teams apart from United, haven't we? So we're now going to
Yes.
change. Obviously, we can't now come up with the same stats because some of the stats will just be a repeat of the preview show of Everton at home. So we're going to mix it up a little bit, aren't we? So why don't you start by telling us what's happened since last time?
The reverse fixture between the two teams was back in October. We had a 1-0 win at Turf Moor. That was thanks to a Jeff Hendrick goal. That lifted Burnley up to 5th place temporarily, while Everton slipped down to 17th place, just above the relegation zone. Burnley haven't quite been able to keep up that pace since then, but Everton have continued to struggle to the extent that they parted ways with manager Marco Silva earlier this month.
Excellent. So where are we going on Boxing Day? What's their ground and what's their capacity like, Dave?
Goodison Park currently has a capacity of just over 39,000. It's been their home ever since 1892. Prior to that, they played at Anfield, and they're currently hoping to move to a brand new stadium at Bramley Moor Dock, that's just north of the city centre, in 2023. Our allocation for Boxing Day, tickets for Burnley fans, appears to have been reported as 1,832. And that means I think there mustn't have been quite enough demand in the early pre-sale period to warrant taking on a second batch of tickets. If you remember, what they did was they did an announcement very early, tried to get demand in, and if there had been a lot of demand in that early part, they would have taken a second batch of tickets as well. But I think we've just got the smaller batch, that's 1,800. But I suspect that'll be pretty much sold out for the Boxing Day fixture.
Yeah, I would have thought so. It's quite a tricky time of year actually, because obviously if you're asking people to commit to an away game quite early on and people have got the other added costs of Christmas, it can be quite a challenge. But I'm pretty sure that those of you who will be there will be singing their hearts out. So what about the heaviest Burnley defeat, please, Dave? This is away from home.
Yes, the benefit of doing the home and away matches and splitting them is we can do these stats and they are different for the away games. So again, looking at the away matches, you have to go all the way back to 1896 for Burnley's heaviest defeat in an away match against Everton. That was a 6-0 loss. That was at Goodison Park in November 1896. And among Everton's goal scorers in that match was a gentleman called Edgar Chadwick, and he later went on to play for Burnley a few years later.
Ah, I see. So sense. Biggest Burnley win?
Two of Burnley's away wins at Everton have been by a 3-goal margin. One of those was a 3-0 win in November 1947, and the other was a 3-0 win on December 27th, 1960. On that occasion, Jimmy Robson scored twice, and John Connelly scored a goal in between. And the crowd for that game in 1960 was an incredible 74,867. That figure was only recently beaten in terms of attendance for a Burnley League game. I think when we played Manchester United in a Premier League match, probably the 14-15 season, was the only time that attendance had been beaten for a Burnley league game.
Wow.
So it's quite an incredible crowd
That's
for
insane.
that match.
That is really insane. Can you even imagine?
Well, I can imagine because my dad was there. I remember my dad telling me about
really?
being there at that match, and there was overcrowding, and they actually had to take some people out, and they sort of led them down wherever they went, and they ended up outside the ground. They didn't actually see the rest of the match.
Oh no! What a shame. Oh, poor things. What about Burnley's last win?
We've got to go back to 1st of October 2017 for Burnley's last win at Goodison Park. In that particular match, a good spell of possession and a patient build-up eventually led to a first-half goal by Jeff Hendrick. That was enough to earn us a 1-0 victory and our first win at Goodison Park since 1976.
Indeed. Rather cracking goal, if I remember rightly. Obviously now we're moving on to one of our new fixtures, given that we're on the reverse fixture. So last season
away from home.
Yes, that one's still new. Gosh, Dave, you're throwing new things in here and you're confusing me.
No, that's the
I
same.
know, I can't make up my mind which one's fake and which one's real.
It'll take some getting used to.
It's going to be chaotic of these 3 recordings. Well, I'm sure I'll get used to it. Last season's meeting then, please, Dave.
Yes, our last trip to Goodison Park, that was back in May. We had a Friday evening kickoff in a match that was broadcast live on Sky Sports. There were 2 first-half goals. One was credited as a Ben Mee own goal, after a deflection, and another from Seamus Coleman just 3 minutes after the first sealed a 2-0 win for the Toffees.
Boom. Well, this is obviously going to be different since the last time. Who is the manager?
Yes, they have changed. Appointed as recently as Saturday morning, where he just had a watching brief from the stands in Saturday lunchtime kickoff, wasn't it? 60-year-old Italian Carlo Ancelotti follows Marco Silva, and he'll be in charge of Everton for the first time for the visit of Burnley on Boxing Day. He has a very impressive footballing CV, having won league titles in Italy with Milan, in England with Chelsea, in France with PSG, and Germany with Bayern Munich. He was unable to win a National League title in Spain with Real Madrid, but he did win the Champions League with them, as well as with Milan twice.
Wow, that's impressive. And remind me again why Everton didn't come in for Dyche. I'm joking. Head-to-head stats then, Dave.
Burnley's all-time away record at Everton is played 57, won 10, drawn 14, and lost 33. So that's a win percentage of 17.5%. That's just below average. We've done this each week, and we've looked at the all-time combined win percentage against all our other 19 opponents this season. That's in all competitions, and it's round about 20%. So 1 in 5 wins in away games. So the 17.5 versus the 20 is just slightly worse. And when we look at these matches just for top flight games only, the breakdown for those games at Everton is played 53, won 9, drawn 14, and lost 30.
Excellent. Now, this one I know is definitely our new feature. What does this one replace? What do we used to have in here?
Played for both.
Yes.
We have players who
So we
played
used
for
to
both.
have players who've played for both, which of course is not going to change because that doesn't depend on whether you're playing away or home. So what Dave has instead is looked at is celebrity fans. So take us away, Dave.
Yeah, something a little bit different. We've looked at, tried to discover which famous supporters our opponents have. And this week we selected the following 7 famous names who've been associated as supporters of Everton Football Club. And those are DJ Tony Blackburn, actress Dame Judi Dench, author Bill Bryson, snooker player Stephen Hendry, ski jumper Eddie the Eagle Edwards, boxer Tony Bellew, and more recently, the actor Sylvester Stallone.
I'm not having it that Dame Judi Dench likes football, never mind actually supports a club. Is that a legit fact?
Well, yeah. Well, you have to take these with a pinch of salt. I mean, we've got the Burnley ones if you want to. The ones I select for Burnley, if you're interested.
Yes, of course.
Radio 1 DJ Jordan North, who I know he goes home and away games when he can. Cricketer Jimmy Anderson. Radio and TV presenter Tony Livesey, who's regularly at games. As is actor Sam Aston, who plays Chesney Brown in Corrie. Former England women's goalkeeper Rachel Brown-Finnis. Spin doctor Alistair Campbell, who's a regular, as we know. And current heir to the throne, Prince Charles, who's probably never been to a match, but he's in there as a
No, he
famous
has
name.
been, hasn't he? I'm sure. Did he not come to the ground?
No. He came to the club, yeah. He did a visit, and he was there in the centre circle with a shirt with Barry Kilby. But no, I doubt whether he's ever been to a game. We might have a few of those in the opponent's celebrity fans
but he
as
watches
well.
us on TV all the time. Finally, then, who is going to be taking control of the game on Boxing Day, Dave? Who's the referee?
We've got Anthony Taylor. He's been selected to referee the Boxing Day match at Goodison Park. Burnley have won 5 of his 16 past matches in charge, and his last outing for a Burnley match was the 1-1 draw at home to Southampton in February. He's assisted by Paul Tierney as the video assistant referee.
Excellent. Now, that is obviously not where we're going to leave that, Dave. And I know you, and I know that you just love to delve into that bank of knowledge. So why don't you give us your miscellaneous stat of the week?
Statman Dave's Stat of the Week.
Yeah, this week's miscellaneous stat of the week is, it's a well-known fact among Burnley fans that the 1959-60 league title was won at Main Road, when Burnley beat Manchester City 2-1 in the last match of the season. What's perhaps less well known is that the 1920-21 league title was confirmed after a match against Everton at Goodison Park. That match was a 1-1 draw on Saturday the 23rd of April 1921. Prior to kick-off, Burnley were 8 points ahead of second-place Liverpool with 4 matches to play. And in those days, with 2 points for a win, the away point we got in the 1-1 draw confirmed Burnley's first league championship, although in actual fact Liverpool had lost 1-0 at Bolton that day anyway. That, of course, was also the season in which Burnley went on an incredible run of 30 league matches unbeaten.
Wow, that is a good stat. So how are you feeling about the game, Boxing Day, Dave? I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, prior to Duncan Ferguson taking over as a bit of a caretaker manager, I've kind of felt like this was going to be a really good opportunity for us to get 3 vital away points. But he seems to have really got them playing again now, and they've obviously got a new manager to impress. So it's going to be a bit of a tough game, I think, now.
It will be, yeah. I mean, what seems to have happened is the crowd have got back on side. There were certainly murmurings while Silva was there, and the players weren't really playing for him or didn't seem to be. But Ferguson certainly seems to have galvanised them, and having a new manager as well. That's always tends to have teams tend to try and have a new manager bounce. So it's going to be a really, really difficult game. Goodison Park, as we know, can be a real cauldron in terms of atmosphere. Really sort of tight to the pitch in terms of where the stands are there. So it's going to be a toughie. It's going to be a tough game. But Burnley, we need to do what we did perhaps the time before last when we beat them with Jeff Hendrick goal back in 2017. We did well in that game. We scored early on. We got our nose in front and we stayed in front and we won the game 1-0. And as we know from the last couple of games, if you can stop the other team getting shots on target and score one yourself, you end up with a 1-0 win. So that might be what we have to try and do on Boxing Day.
The only thing that worries me a little bit at the moment away from home is just our general lack of creativity. Even when we've got some of the key players on the pitch, it just feels like Dyche goes away from home just to play ultra cautious and doesn't really take the risks that you maybe want him to. And for me, Everton away is probably not one that you would expect to win. So I would almost be tempted just to throw caution to the wind and suggest that that's one of those games that you can take a risk, Dave. You don't need to play it safe because you're probably not going to win. So why not go for it?
Yeah, I mean that's one way of looking. I think the other is that when we go a goal behind, we do find it notoriously difficult to get back into the game. So by keeping it tight early on, if you can get your nose in front, then perhaps you play a little bit differently. But I think it is going to be a tough game. We know that, and as I say, having a new manager there, having that trying to get a new manager bounce, and probably the improved atmosphere that'll bring, it'll be a very, very tricky match on Boxing Day, but should be a good game, good atmosphere, and good for the 1,800 or so Burnley fans who are going to be there supporting on the team.
Okay, so at this point in the game, no, at this point in the show, we normally sit and talk about the None and Never Fantasy Premier League. Now, due to our slightly disjointed recording schedules of obviously what is a very busy Christmas and New Year period, we're not going to be providing a Fantasy Premier League update in this and our next couple of preview shows. What we're going to do is just let it run its course over the Christmas period, and then when we come back in the new year, we're going to give a full update and then start building it back into our weekly schedule again. But what we do have, which of course Statman Dave kindly told us at the beginning of the show, was our quiz question. We are sticking with that, even though we may not talk to you and give you any name checks for any correct answers. We are, of course, going to give our quiz question, so you should submit your answers in your usual way. Dave, what is the Boxing Day special quiz question?
Statman Dave's quiz question.
Yeah, this week's quiz question is, how many passes did Burnley string together in the build-up to Jeff Hendrick's goal in our 1-0 win over Everton at Goodison Park in October 2017?
I know this. I definitely know this. This is very exciting. I'm very happy about this. Dave, how do our listeners submit their answers, please?
They can tweet or message us on Twitter at No Nay Never. Post on our No Nay Never Facebook page or email us podcast@nonaynever.net.
Excellent. And obviously we're going to reveal the correct answer at the start of our next preview show, so you're going to have to be quick to get those answers in, because otherwise we'll have moved on to Man United and Everton will be nothing but a distant memory. That is all we've got time for then for our Boxing Day preview show special. My thanks as ever go to producer Matt, who's going to have his hands full this festive period, knitting all of these preview shows together and making sure they go out before the games. But as ever, my main thanks go to Dave. Dave, you just put so much effort into these, and I just love it. I love the preview show so much. So thank you very much. Godspeed to all travelling clarets who are making the trip, the very short trip to Liverpool Boxing Day. Cheer those boys on, be merry, and bring home those 3 points. We will be back in about 5 minutes' time to look at Manchester United at home on the Saturday. I don't even know what date we're on anymore. The Saturday between Boxing Day and New Year. This has been the preview show brought to you by the Non and Never podcast. Until next time.